Ready?
Yeah, as soon as I turn this thing on.
All right.
Yeah.
Which you can still do.
I have 5:30. We're ready to start. Call this meeting to order at 5:30 p.m. Please complete roll call.
Mayor Rodham,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Perry,
Here.
Councilmember Caffey,
Here.
Councilmember Walker,
Here.
Councilmember Oliveris, Councilmember Starnes,
Here.
Councilmember Melton.
Here.
Please stand for the pledge. Please remain standing for our invocation.
Good evening, everyone. Am I able to introduce myself? I'm Reverend Madison Garcia Tabor. I am the pastor at St. John's United Methodist Church on Hillcrest, and I'm honored to join you all today for our invocation. For our invocation, I'm going to be giving you, each and every one of you, a blessing from a special book that I received on a pilgrimage many years ago. This is a blessing for a leader. So as you receive this blessing, I hope each one of you take these words to heart. May you have grace and wisdom to act kindly, learning to distinguish what is personal and what is not. May you be hospitable to criticism. May you never put yourself at the center of things. May you not act from arrogance, but out of service. May you work on yourself, building up and refining the ways of your mind. May those who work for you know you see and respect them. May you learn to cultivate the art of presence in order to engage with those who meet you. When someone fails or disappoints you, may the graciousness with which you engage be their stairway to renewal and refinement. May you treasure the gifts of the mind through reading and creative thinking so that you may continue as a servant of the frontier, where the new will draw its enrichment from the old, and you never become a functionary. May you know the wisdom of deep listening, the healing of wholesome words, the encouragement of the appreciative gaze, the decorum of held dignity, the springtime edge of the bleak question. May you have a mind that loves frontiers, so that you can evoke the bright fields that lie beyond the view of the regular eye. May you have good friends to mirror your blind spot. And may leadership be for you a true adventure for growth. I pray this blessing on each and every one of these leaders, not only the city council members, but each and every one of you in this room that cares so deeply about Rockdale. Amen.
Thank you very much. Thank you for that prayer. I would like to, before we move to item 5 on presentations, make a quick announcement that Council Member Esmeralda Relis is not able to be with us tonight. She unfortunately had an injury to her knee this afternoon and is on her way to the hospital, so I ask that you keep her in your thoughts. That's why she's not here with us this evening. Moving on to item 5, presentation. Myself and staff recognize Charles Harner, Matt McGowan, and Derek Wetstein from the Public Works. Do we have anyone here? Gerald, are they here? Yes.
There's on the agenda item, there's a 4th, James Sanders. He got his license just a few months before.
Okay.
Had him recognized also. He's on the agenda item as one of the 4.
Okay. Come on up front. So, gentlemen, thank y'all for your hard work and for studying hard and for putting in the work to get your Class D and Class C wastewater licenses. For those of you who don't know, this is important for our city to remain in compliance with the TCEQ. So, and it's a pretty darn tough test. So thank you for your commitment to working hard and working for our city government. And the water leak we had the other day that y'all got on, I tell you what, you did a phenomenal job. So thank you for taking care of it. And I know I can speak for council as well and for Gerald. Thank you so much. We appreciate your hard work very much. Every day, day in and day out.
Your hard work,
Don't leave a speech or anything?
it doesn't go unnoticed. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Item 5B is to receive a presentation about pickleball courts from Randy Reddy, CEO of Cortex Construction. Randy?
So, Weston.
Okay.
I'm gonna give you one of these,
Okay.
and you can kind of read through it and go that
Sure.
way, and then I'll give you one, so. I didn't know how the PowerPoint all works, so. First of all, thank you for coming, or thank you for letting me come. I enjoyed a Pledge of Allegiance and a prayer. We don't get much of that in the big city anymore, and that's very, very awesome to see. So, what is pickleball? I'm hoping everyone's heard of it by now, but there's still a lot of people out here that haven't in the smaller towns. It's basically, instead of saying miniature tennis, life-size ping pong. That's just the best way to explain it. It really is. But community is really the neatest part I have seen it affect lately. In a world of division, the country in division, it brings together more people of sizes, ages, races, you name it. Anyone can get out there, they can compete, and they can have a positive experience. And it's really, really neat to see. So how can it affect the community other than that? There's revenue ways. Gerald and I have been going back and forth for probably years, I'd say, trying to find ideas of how to bring it to the small towns. We prefer to work outside the larger cities with the smaller towns because that's where you really get to see a tangible return on investment with the community. Seguin is one that really comes to mind. In 2022, we took a shut-down middle school tennis court, converted it to 9 pickleball courts, and it was in a really rough, rundown area, and the whole area has prospered. It cleaned up the entire neighborhood. They don't have any openings. The courts are just used to all be out. How does that affect financially? It's a lot of money up front, no joke. But you get a lot of positive out of it. One really main thing I like to push is if you size them to a tournament caliber of 6 courts or more, you can actually host tournaments and make revenue on these courts. And if you don't think people will play, your community here is a big part of driving all the way to Taylor and maxing out Murphy Park at the city of Taylor, which we just put an expansion in as well. Is there any questions that anyone has about pickleball and why we're here? Just so I can kind of start on those and go from there.
Feel free to ask any questions if you have any questions.
What's the percentage of people you see coming from Rockdale going over there, do you know?
So Taylor's getting a lot of people all the way, even from Georgetown and up. I don't know if we have actually the data to say who's coming from Rockdale. All I can tell you is I work hand in hand with the director over there, Tyler Bybee, and he tells us that he sees a lot of people from Rockdale coming over. That was brought up in small talk when I had mentioned we're coming out there to look at it. I believe Gerald's had some feedback too that people are telling they're complaining that they have to drive all the way out there.
Sir, we do have, I think, 3 people here who also are regularly 2-3 times a week heading to Cameron and using the Cameron courts.
Okay.
So, gentleman right in front of you there.
Okay, cool. So we have some pickleballers here. So Gerald asked me a lot on budgets, and that's a great question. I don't know if any of y'all drive pickups here, but I'd imagine a few people in this town have a pickup truck. There's a large difference between an XL and a King Ranch, and that's the same thing with pickleball courts. But the one thing you can't skimp on is size, because if you have a 34 by 64, you can host the tournament venues, which allow you to bring in revenue. If you skimp on the size and get under regulation to put more courts in, not only will the competitive players have nothing but complaints for the parks department, but you have safety issues, and then you can't make any revenue on them. So the number one question is, how many courts can I get for this? And my number one answer is going to be like, what is the courts and how are they designed? So it's really hard for us to design anything without some sort of a budget. The goal of the budget is not for me to spend every dollar in that budget you have. The goal in the budget is to figure out, okay, how can we develop a plan, not only to work with your budget right now, but to incorporate into a way that we could add on to that with eliminating double cost of construction. Same thing we're doing at Murphy Park and Taylor. They only had a budget for 3. We built them proper. We built them with the right size. We used the right commercial lighting, but we left room for expansion to where it won't cost double construction to redesign it. We can just go on with the flow. How many players would you think y'all had do y'all have a local Facebook group and all that?
Cameron does.
Cameron does, and y'all kind of piggybacking off that? So you think it'd be pretty?
About 8 courts over there.
They've got 8. Were they tennis courts that were converted?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And so tennis courts that are converted is a great thing to do. I'm guessing they probably did four pickleball courts on each tennis court?
Yes.
Okay, so that would be a 30 by 60, and it's real tight. If you build them from scratch, you can start with the right footprint and go from there. We've gotten options through local tennis courts here that we can convert. There's a single court, remind me the name of the park. The name of the park.
At Moultrie Park.
Okay, there's one slab there that we could convert as one. To me, the biggest thing I see cities making a mistake of throughout building courts for 10 years is putting lines on tennis courts to see if the demand's there. The demand's there. So as soon as you do a line on the tennis court, people are going to flock to it. Tennis players are going to complain, and then you're going to ask me for double cost on how to put that back to tennis to go find pickleball elsewhere.
We were already there at that park. Yeah.
Okay, and a lot of people spend double money on
We were
that.
playing pickleball and the guys came to play basketball and we held them.
Pickleball and basketball players don't match well.
Yeah.
It's arguments, it's the type of people just that don't mesh well. So you never want to combine those sports. So if there's anything you can do, separating is the best of the best.
So the pickleball court does the size of the court itself doesn't change, but you're saying to get the
It's the perimeter.
for movement and to make the kind of shots you would in a tournament, you need a 34 by
64. Yes, sir. And going back to awesome time of the year right now, Olympics. Did anyone see ping pong on the Olympics?
Oh yeah, that was my favorite.
We're all good playing in a garage, but in ping pong in the Olympics, they have to have a ginormous room for that perimeter. So the table stays the same size, same thing as pickleball. The line stays the same size as the perimeter.
I think what you can answer for us, Weston, is the council, I think, across the board, is seeing the need for it. And we've discussed it, and I've bothered y'all on probably 6 or 8 different occasions, asking for quotes, what do we do this, what do we do this? But it was never widely accepted. There was just kind of some niches. Now it's widely accepted that it's a viable option. People in town want it. And I can tell you, I live about 4 blocks from the pickleball court in Cameron, and it is used by the littlest of little up to people my age. The golf group. The golf group that I'm part of, Wednesday Night Scramble. They've already started a 12-team pickleball league for the fall, and I know a guy that's a year and a half older than me, 71, and his wife are signed up against 17, 18-year-olds for that 12-team league they're going to be putting in. So I think it's really time for us. What I think the council really needs is, you've told us what you would expect if we wanted tournaments to get 30 by 60 each court. How much are we talking about? Is it savings if you do 3? Is it savings if you do 5? Or is it going to be the same price, 1 or 6?
There's definitely economies to a scale. That's a great question, because you're not paying all those mobilizations and those separate mobilizations. 1 concrete pour, 1 concrete pump, 1 fencer, 1 trip. So the more you can do it once, the cheaper it is. I'd say the difference between 1 to 3 would be more significant than the difference between 3 to 6. So the more you can do, I think 6 is just a golden number. At the end of the day, I'm going to be viewed as a salesman, and I appreciate that. So I'd really like y'all to reach out to the city of Tyler. Let me furnish you with the city of Seguin. Let me furnish you with the city of Weatherford. That's our 3 most.
I included the picture of the Weatherford
I
boards
believe
that you did.
those 3 are all in there. And that's what I really want y'all to focus on, because we've done big, fancy, big city stuff is really what we live on, but we really enjoy the small city stuff. And the feedback from those people, those directors of the parks and whatnot, on how it affected their community is what I want y'all to hear. So that's why I want to get those references in front of you.
We have a local company, that, actually 2 local companies, but I've only spoken to one of them, that has a concrete plant, and they do a lot of concrete work, and they've offered to give us a good deal on that. So if we were able to pour the courts ourselves, the big, then you could just give us the price on fence, lighting.
It's the biggest mistake. If they want to donate some concrete from the plant at cost, that's the biggest favor they can do. If they're wanting to build it, you take all thousands of courts and 15 years experience we have out. It's a lot more than just standard flat work. There's a lot tighter tolerances. It's all post-tension, which tends to scare some people. Anything I warranty is structurally inside of the concrete. So the best way I like to explain that is find me a home builder that'll let you pour your own slab, and he'll warranty the house on top of it. I'll do it, but I can't control anything. So warranty's out the window, and I guarantee you're going to have some sort of finger pointing at the end, which isn't fun, especially when people are trying to donate to something positive in a community. You want it to be streamlined, and if you have any problems, you want one person to hold his butt to the fire. You know what I mean? City of Taylor's ran into some construction issues, and so that's where we could get it bonded, we could get it engineered. The sky's the limit on the layers of protection we can put on everyone. But the favor I would ask from them is if they want to help out, get us the CREAT at cost, and we could give you credit back towards the going rate, the discount or whatnot on something like that. As far as the actual placement of it, though, that is the court. The court is the concrete, and that's what we do.
So
Yes,
no
sir.
matter the soil conditions, it's always post-tensioned?
No matter the soil condition, it's always post-tension.
Okay.
Think of this, you can't have control joints on a court. A wiffle ball can't land on anything that's not going to divert the ball. So there's that entire, let's say, a tennis court's 7,200 square foot. That entire 7,200 square foot doesn't have a control joint in it, which is why you have to go with post-tension.
So have you built any scenarios for a town that doesn't have, if you need 6, I'm not a pickleball, I played it twice.
Sure.
It's fun, but
About 2,000 square foot each.
have you have any scenarios, if 6 is what's kind of needed for a tournament, do all 6 have to be in one location, or can they be a half a mile or a mile from each other, 2, 4, and 6?
I'd assume anyone that's wanting a tournament, I've never been asked that question, is going to want it in the same area. I'd have to go to the UPA and talk to them about different areas, but any venue I've ever seen has been in one area, yes, sir. The games are quick. Everyone's centrally located. They give you silly little rules, like if you're not ready, like at the PPA tournaments, within 6 minutes in between matches, they just skip you and you're out, and they keep going.
How long does a match last, generally?
That's kind of like ping pong, so it depends on rallies and whatnot. You can have a 10-minute rally that's listed on. Believe it or not, they're on the top 10 of ESPN nowadays. So that's all up in the air. If you're really bad, it's going to take really long.
Unless you're playing somebody that's really good.
Yeah, there is that.
That's mixed up.
That's a hard question. It's skill level. Going back to what he said, that he nailed it on the tee. You can get an 8-year-old boy and a 90-year-old woman, and they can compete. I've never seen a sport ever in any world where that drastic of change, people can compete, and how it bonds the community is just really special. it's just hard to explain. So that's why I really want y'all to talk to people that are in that community that have seen it with their own eyes. A little bit about us. We're out of Leander. We do work for what's called the MLP and the PPA. That's the pros at the top level. I built the very first MLP venue that was televised by CBS in 2019. Officially in 2021 is when their name kicked in, but we built it in 19, expanded from them. And then when the PPA has problems with their venues around the United States, we are literally who they call to come put the problems out, squash those fires that their in-house crews can't. So there's a thing called Nationals. I'm sure you're familiar of it. It's the Super Bowl of pickleball. It's in Dallas right now. It rotates. We built that entire venue last year for the whole entire Nationals of all the pickleball. So the portfolios go unannounced. We're just that perfect mixture of small to where if you call me and you want to yell at the owner, I'll answer my phone. But we also have the portfolio of any large company out there as well for the peace of mind. If something goes wrong, we can handle problems, fix them the right way.
Doug, you have a question?
Yeah, you're saying court size of about 2,000 square foot. I see them wall space around, and I don't know if it's judging stands or what have you. So if you're saying 6 courts, what would be the total square footage?
2186 times 6. So I'm not good enough to do that in my head, so I'm going to cheat a little bit.
So around 15,000 square feet, somewhere in that neighborhood?
You're probably going to want a sidewalk in between the two. That way you can enter without interfering games. So I'm going to give you about a 10-15% buffer on that. 13 to 15,000, yes, sir. It's a lot.
That's for 6. That's for 6.
That's for 6.
Minimum set aside, we're looking around 15,000 square feet.
Yes, sir. And when it comes to budget, just so y'all know, it's not a secret how I'm going to play with that. Size is one I really don't want to be negotiable because I want y'all to see or at least have the opportunity to get revenue from it. So I get really, really stubborn on size. Fencing is pretty much necessary. If you go with a 4-foot chain link, that's all you need. But if you want windscreens, then we have to go to 10-foot, beef up the steel, beef up the structure. You've created a sail, beef up the structural integrity into the concrete. All things I can't control if we're not doing the concrete. Lighting. Lighting's a huge cost. You don't have to have it. It's nice. In the winter when we get off work at 5, it's hard to get out there before it's dark. In the summer when it's 105 degrees outside, it's unbearable. It's nice to play at dark. But you can get good life out of those courts, add lights later. So that's little pieces of my puzzle I try to play with for the budget. If we can't make 6 work, then we do 3. And some people like to do it all out, do it right, and we'll add as we go. So you do the lighting, the 10-foot fence, we do 3, set it up in a form or fashion that everything can connect to it. And that's really important to be incorporated in the engineering foundation design, the electrical design, the conduit we run, even if the lights aren't there yet, to have it all prepped and ready to go so you're not paying double cost and all that.
Doug?
Y'all,
Go ahead, Councilman.
y'all design, build everything? Everything?
Yes. Yeah, we have engineers we work with if you want it engineered. Bonding company. I've got a little over 2,000 of these under my belt. So I've never had one structurally fail. While we're talking about post-tension, all concrete cracks, I know your soils aren't the best over here out on the east side, but we take all that into account and design it accordingly. Post-tension is the best thing we have to minimize that concrete from cracking as the weather keeps changing, the earth keeps moving. Rebar is stronger. Some people will definitely fight on that. We're not looking for strength. We're looking for something that can free float with the weather and change with the earth as it changes. We're not building houses on it. It's courts. We're judged by how much a court cracks, not sheetrock or windows settling. So if that court wants to move in 10 years, 1 inch, 2 inches on one corner, we don't care as long as it doesn't crack. So that's the perfect
Doug?
example of
My
post-tension.
question is, what is the optimal orientation, northwest, east,
Awesome. A lot of people mess that up. North and south.
is optimal for the court to run north and south?
Yes, sir. Almost crucial. Or you're going to have the sun just blaring someone in the face at one point in the day. So when y'all lay it out and start finding places that you might want it, get your iPhone out, type in compass, and you don't have to be perfect. You don't want to screw up the aesthetics of a beautiful park if it's just a few degrees off. But in the general area, you want it to be north and south.
said windscreens. Are they making those windscreens removable in the summertime?
To let more air in so it's
To
cooler.
let some air in?
So it's just zip ties. That's a great question for your maintenance department. We have breakaway zip ties because they're designed to break away with wind burst.
Too much wind.
Because if they don't break away, it takes the entire fence down with it. No matter, we could put 4-inch Schedule 40 posts, and that 190-degree wind storm we have will take it down. So with windscreens come maintenance. They're just zip ties on the corners. Don't let your maintenance guys hog tie so they don't come down anymore, because then you just created a cell that won't bust loose. The other thing with windscreens that people really don't understand is 50% of the use form is vision, so you can see the ball. When you have clear cyclone, chain link, whatever you want to call it, fencing, cars driving by, it's very distractive, but when you have a solid wall behind you, you really see the ball. You can also sell ad space on windscreens. You can have your local communities, your local businesses put a banner up for $500 a year, like they do in the Little League outfields. You can sell ad space and help the community be a part of that and help offset some of the cost. And you can do that every year.
What's the lifespan of windscreens?
Windscreens, 10 years, 5 to 10 years. I've very rarely, I've been doing this 15 years, I've very rarely been called back. Like anything, you can buy the China ones or you can buy the US Open ones. We'll only do a quality windscreen because of that. But I'd say at least 10 years for the windscreens. Resurfaces are recommended about every 5 to 7 years. That's repainting the concrete. Other than that, you really don't have much maintenance on these. The LED lights nowadays are a one and done. I'm sure y'all switched to LED lights across the city on everything.
Questions? So we are approaching 6 p.m. I'd like to wrap this discussion up by 6 p.m. if I may. If you would like, is there anything you would like to say in conclusion, sir?
Not really. I just want y'all to kind of discuss this, look through the information we've provided, try to pinpoint me into some sort of a budget to where I can go to work and design something that I think will affect the community the best. Right now, I've got enough information. I'd have to quote about 15 quotes to get it in front of you. I'm just asking y'all narrow me down to where I can give you an option A and an option B, and we can kind of go from there.
Okay. Council, any other questions?
Is all lighting outside the footprint if it was to come later?
Yes, you want as least amount of components as you can get in that post-tension slab. The more components you put in it, the more chances you're going to have for it to crack. Now, you might have one pole in the middle of the slab to make that design work, but the more you can get outside the slab and their own footings, the better.
Very good, Weston. Thank you for your presentation.
Of course.
Certainly appreciate it. The next item is item 6 on the agenda. Is there anyone present from Health Point? No one present from Health Point. I will read this proclamation. Every August, National Association of Community Health Centers sponsors National Health Center Week to celebrate and increase awareness of America's community health centers. Whereas National Health Center Week offers the opportunity to celebrate America's more than 1,400 community health center organizations with over 14,000 service delivery sites, including over 3,000 schools. Whereas we honor their dedicated staff, board members, patients, and all those responsible for their continued success and growth since the first health centers opened their doors more than 50 years ago. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed that I, Ward Rodham, Mayor of the City of Rockdale, Texas, encourages all citizens to take part by visiting with their local health care center and celebrating the important partnership between America's community health centers and the communities they serve, and do hereby declare the week of August 1st through the 7th, 2024, to be observed as Exercise with Your Child Week. Looks like we have one person signed up for citizen communications. Mr. Hurd, Walter? I remind you, sir, you have 3 minutes to speak.
A bunch of time. Okay. Congratulations to you, Mayor.
Thank you, sir.
And also for the city manager most of all. I'm here concerning my water problem I've had, I've been here before. And this is the plumbing problem that I had at my house. It came, no glue inside here. I've been at my place for 45 years. And the city, I thought, was responsible for doing this. This is inside of my box. This is my pipe coming from my house. Well, anyway, this is the meter over here where I am. And where this meter, meter is screwed on to the meter here. That's the screw part. And the meter's over there. And then my pipe comes in to the meter box. And this leaked right here. No glue hardly inside on the pipe, nor inside of this coupling that was put on there. And water was just shooting out, and it did it for a whole month. Well, it did it for more than a month, because in December I saw it in the ditch. It run off into a ditch. The ditch had grass and everything up at the top of it. I couldn't tell where the water was coming from. I reported it to the city 2 times in the month of January, and I have it on record where I have the city records that says it was called in. And I did call it in too, those 2 times. Okay, nobody ever came out. If they did, they didn't tell me or didn't say anything. The water just kept on running that whole month. Okay, and so the city, when they got ready to check the water bill, they said that they found out that the water was running over there, so excessive water leak over there on my side, so they came out and they found it right away. But they hadn't, if they had sent somebody else like they should have, I guess, whatever they do, well, they would have found it during the month of January, but now they found it in February the 9th. That's when they called me, and I called and told them again when the guy came out, and he went back, he left. I called the city. They told me, said, well, cut the water off, come down to the city, and we're going to put you on the payment plan. Payment plan, now I wasn't, all this time I done told them that there was a leak, and I thought it might have been their responsibility. Okay, the water came through there, and when I went to the city, I showed them, I took videos of it and everything, where the water was running out back of the darn pipe there and everything. I showed it to Gerald and city manager, the other one. And they told me, said, well, you got 2 options. You're going to pay it all, pay for the water bill right now, or you can get the water cut off. Well, the water cut off, pay it all, or you get on the payment plan. So I got stuck on the payment plan, which was expensive to me. And I didn't feel like I should have been on the payment plan. And I kept asking, I asked for, the city manager told me, well, the city, there's a law that says that if the water comes through the meter, then it's my responsibility. And it took forever for me to find it, but I finally found it. And I found that the city ordinance had a law in it where it was 13.05.200F. That's what was a citizen responsibility. And it did say that the water comes through the meter. If it goes through the meter, it belongs to you. You have to pay for it. Well, I mean, it's your responsibility anyway. But anyway, it came through the darn meter all right, but this is what the city put on to the meter after it comes through the meter. They screwed this onto the meter,
Mr.
and
Hurd.
this is the glue.
Walter.
Mr. Hurd?
Yes.
In respect of the time was up a few minutes ago on that. It was my understanding that this was already taken care of on your payment plan, that a negotiation been made between you and the city outside of that payment plan. Is that not correct?
I haven't received any money back, so I don't know how it could be. I could be,
Are you around your house tomorrow? I came by to see you once.
Nobody saved me any money. Nobody gave me my money back, you know?
Will you be around there tomorrow if I come by there?
I don't know. I'll try to.
Well, I'll swing by and settle up with you tomorrow on it, because it was our understanding as a council that this was already dealt with. So we'll certainly, not saying that it has been, but it was our understanding it had been. And I took this for Mr. Rodham because I had a little back history on it since he wasn't here when that happened. So I will be glad to come pay you a visit tomorrow and make sure we're both on the same page and get it taken care of.
Yeah, okay, thank you, because the other mayor we had, he said that he would take care of it, but he retired. And
I can assure you, Walter, we will get it taken care of, sir.
Okay.
Thank you for being here to speak tonight.
Thank you.
All right, next item on the agenda is public hearing. I will officially open the public hearing at 6:06 PM. We're going to conduct a public hearing on the proposed fiscal year 2024-2025 budget and tax rate, October 1st, 2024 through September 30th, 2025 for the city of Rockdale. This public hearing is now officially open. Tim?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So the purpose of the hearing tonight is to take public input on the proposed tax rate, which council had voted to propose a tax rate of 85 cents, although that has not been adopted yet and can be further considered, and then the budget as well. Both the budget and the information on our tax rate is available on our website. I would bring to council's attention, though, about 10 minutes before this council meeting, I did get an email from Ryan from the County Appraisal Office, and there had been a miscalculation. Is this mine? Yes. No? Oh, here it is. There had been a miscalculation that he had, because they do a worksheet that calculates our proposed rates, and so we will have to go back and make an adjustment. It won't have a significant impact other than the fact that our debt rate is now going to be 0.162234. That will be the amount that they have indicated we will need to levy in order to support our existing debt, and that will lower our M&O portion of the tax rate if at that 85 cents down to 0.687766. And one of the things that he indicated was, I'm sorry, one of the other changes that does affect overall, and that is that our no new revenue rate goes from 0.712777 to 0.76051, so about an increase of 5 cents in the no new revenue rate. The voter approval rate will go from 0.808951 to 0.857855, which now our proposed rate is actually less than the voter approval rate. I will tell you, since we have adopted a proposed rate of 85 cents, even though this will negatively impact our ability to generate revenue, we cannot go over that 0.85 cents of the rate that was proposed. So it's not going to have a major impact on the overall budget, but it will have some impact. Now, for the public's sake, sorry. We are looking at a general fund budget of about $5.5 million. That covers administration, streets, fire department development services, parks and recreation, emergency management, the court, police department, animal control, and then we also have debt service as well. In our enterprise fund, which covers water and sewer, solid waste, and the city secretary, that's about a $3.2 million budget. And then outside of those, we have hot taxes and other restricted funds which are budgeted for, as well as the municipal development district in this budget. So having said that, I would Mayor, I invite you to invite anyone from the public that wants to get up and address council.
At this time, I'll offer anyone that's here the opportunity to approach the microphone and speak your thoughts regarding the proposed tax rate. Do we have anyone who would like to speak? Do we have anyone present who would like to speak? Last opportunity, anyone present who would like to speak? Being that there is no one, we will close this public hearing officially at 6:10 p.m. Moving on to item 9, which is the consent agenda. Council, I'll give you the opportunity. Is there any questions you have over the consent agenda before I ask for a motion, or is there anything you'd like to have further discussion over?
I'll make a motion that we approve the agenda as read.
I have a motion and a second on the floor that we approve the consent agenda as read. Is there any discussion? Being no discussion, all in favor signify by raising your right hand. Motion passes unanimously. Item 10, ordinances. Consider and take any necessary action on the ordinance adopting the annual budget for the city of Rockdale beginning October 1st, 2024 through September 30th, 2025. Tim?
Thank you. So following the public hearing, council may take action to adopt the budget as proposed or can make changes as they see fit. According to the city charter, we can adopt the budget after one reading if we have a vote, a 7-0 vote to do so. With Councilman Ruelas absent, we will not be able to adopt the budget, but I would ask that you go ahead and accept the first reading of the proposed budget. And if there's any recommended changes, we can incorporate those before the second reading. But we will have to have a second reading, unfortunately, because not everybody's here tonight.
I did speak to Esmeralda, and she said that she could call in if we needed to. If that's, I don't know if that's on the table or not, if you wanted to adopt that.
I know that the governor, during COVID, they had some rules that allowed council members to join by telephone. Those rules have been since rescinded. I don't believe that they're still available. I'd have to have legal counsel on that, whether they can vote by phone or not.
That's correct.
The only thing it boils down to is to do it one more time next week, right?
That's correct.
That's correct.
I'd like to say something about the tax rate. I'm sure you guys have heard from citizens, which is great, through emails, and about the concern of raising it, and that's certainly not what we want to do. But as you had said last Monday, it's lean. It is a lean one. There's no doubt about it. There's not a lot of fluff in there, and I hope people understand that. We're trying everything we can to get it down, but it's just costs are up on everything. Everybody knows that is your livelihood. And so we're doing the best we can on it. So keep that in mind, please.
Yes, thank you for sharing that, Councilman McCaffey. I would like to say that as when I first took on this role, or was appointed in this role of mayor, I met with then City Manager Barbara Hiley, and we were discussing budget at that time. I think that was a couple of months ago. And our first conversation was I would love and like to have a budget where no tax increases are a part of that, applicable to that. And we began to work through that. And unfortunately, as Councilmember Caffey just pointed out, with the rising cost of goods and services, and our city's growing. I mean, some may not think that, but our city is growing. Our city is growing every day, and our city's going to continue to grow. I'm very excited about some of the things that we've proposed in our new budget. One of my most important platforms that I have personally is public safety. And one of the things that we proposed as a part of our new budget is increasing our police officer pay. It's been many, many years since our police department has been fully staffed, and that's a problem, and I don't like that. And there are some things that we want to do as a city council to try to resolve that problem and get our hardworking police officers, and more importantly, our citizens, properly protected with a fully staffed police department. In addition to that, and I'll speak just about our police department, there are some things we are considering a neighborhood forming and teaching, a neighborhood watch program, a citizens police academy. So those are some things we're trying to think out of the box on improving our public safety, getting our citizens more involved with our police department and working with our police officers. So those are some of the positive things that I hope will come out of this budget as well.
If I could also go back to budget workshop discussion, I feel like it was said that the city's growing and we can anticipate in future years where we're a little more flush, and that this is a rate that could perhaps come back down in the future. Is it fair to ask what circumstances, what would it have to look like for us to be able to go back and cut the tax rate?
So, our general fund is driven by both ad valorem taxes and sales taxes, primarily in Rockdale by ad valorem taxes. So as we see new development in the city, as an example with Cornerstone, as those new houses come online, every $1 million of assessed value generates about $7,000 of additional revenue, $7,500 worth of additional revenue. You know, so in the last, I don't know, 30 or 45 days, you know, we've issued about 50 building permits out there. That's about $10 million worth of assessed value or more. Am I correct, where's Ben? Anyways, there you are. So that's that in itself, and as new retail development occurs, because we are actually issuing new permits all the time for new retail development, that will drive additional sales tax revenue. As SLR comes online, I think that will be a catalyst, and if we can stay ahead of that development, you know, we'll be able to drive even more retail development. The MDD has made a strong commitment in their budget, I think, to do additional retail recruitment that will generate additional revenue. Those types of developments will allow us more revenue and allow us to bring that property tax rate down.
To what you're saying, Tim, and as well as Ward and Brad, the other thing to keep in mind is there's a lot of growth, and that does equal revenue. But unfortunately, the city sees the expenditure side of things prior to generating revenue from those. So we have a lot of capital outlay and projects like that we have to take on, getting ready for the growth and accepting the growth before we ever receive anything back from that growth. So that makes it tough. We're financing stuff on the front end to be ready for the growth.
Council, any other input, comments? Tim?
I would just ask if council is okay to go ahead and make a motion to approve the ordinance, the first reading of the ordinance as presented.
At this time, I'll entertain any motion from council regarding the first reading of the ordinance.
I'll make a motion that we accept the first reading of the ordinance accepting the tax rate as presented.
Now, this is the ordinance on the budget.
An
Ordinance adopting a budget for fiscal year 2024-2025.
That's what I meant to say, excuse me.
Second that motion. I have a motion and a second on the floor. Is there any discussion? Being no discussion, I'll ask for a vote. All in favor, please signify by raising your right hand. Motion passes unanimously.
Then on items 10B and 11A, Mr. Mayor, we won't be able to take action on those two, the tax rate ordinance or the ratification, until we actually adopt a budget. So those would have to wait until until the 19th.
Understood. Thank you. We'll move down to under action items 11B. Consider and take any necessary action on awarding a contract for the property appraisal of the GLO CDBG-MIT drainage project. Gerald?
Sir. FEMA and TDM regulations require that the city go out for bids to get current appraisal values on property that easements will be granted and paid for by the GLO. And so it took 2 times to go out for requests for qualifications. Second time, we got 2 qualifications sent in. The city staff is recommending we take Titan out of Austin, and it was agreed to and considered to be a good choice by our GLO representative.
Council, any questions?
Is this project gonna be a lot like the one that they just did here at Ham Branch, how they cleaning it out? And we put the,
It's different than that. It's going to be a 10-foot flat on the bottom, and then they're working together, the Solid Bridge Construction and the RV Park, to ensure that they have a way to get across their property. And so there are some differences between it and Ham Branch, because it'll be a working, so it can be mowed and go across and back.
and of course, it'll hopefully keep the water from going out on the Cameron Avenue when it floods, is that correct?
Nothing was done from Cameron Avenue south. That was all done by TxDOT, and we don't anticipate any changes. This is just going to keep water from being held up at Belton Street and over, having to put a low water crossing there, and it seems to be doing its job in the last large rain we got. But we anticipate there will still be some puddling or major puddling on the RV property, but it will just move forward through there, and we're going to relieve the backups at Belton Street.
The project itself is not anything to do with Titan. Titan is just doing the easement,
We're doing the appraisal on the easement.
appraisal on the easement.
Yes, sir.
To satisfy the GLO.
Yes, sir.
That's what.
Council, I'll entertain any action on this item.
I'll get to that in a second if I get to it. Where we at? 10? 11B, 11B. And it was Titan, isn't it? I make a motion that we accept the recommendation of Titan out of Austin for the GLO easement appraisal.
I'll second that.
I have a motion and a second on the floor to accept the appraisal by Titan out of Austin. Is there any discussion?
Excuse me, is that how it's listed on the action item? Because Alyssa said it needed to be read, the resolution is that typed it up there?
The recommendation says award
On
the
contract
appraisal
property.
bid to Titan, Austin, Texas.
Yeah, there is no resolution in this.
There's no resolution.
There is no resolution.
Okay.
Now, there's discussion, which I think you held, the discussion that was on here. Any other?
Okay, thank you.
Okay. We have a motion and a second on the floor. Is there any further discussion? Being none, I'll ask for a vote. All in favor, please signify by raising your right hand. Motion passes unanimously. Action item 11C. Consider and take any necessary action on the recommendation by the City Council regarding a preliminary plat submitted by Mike Richards for property known as 1013 West Cameron Avenue, Rockdale, Texas, Milam County, into Lot 1. Ben? Doug? They had Ben on here.
It had me confused too, sir. Ben's taking a break. So this is the property that 1013 West Cameron Avenue. If you're at Cocina Familiar and you walk out the front door and keep walking across the highway, you walk to this property. It's the property located between the car wash and Dollar General, also known as Big Boy's Barbecue at one time, and has a building there that served as a drive-up food place. It has an A-frame building on it, and it also has a modular home in the back of the property. It was residential, which is non-conforming. Everything in the area is commercial. The purchaser would like to put a business in here. There was one little item with an easement regarding a sign that's there. All that's all been worked out, and everything looks good to go at this point.
So is the sign variance no longer needed?
I believe
It's needed.
it is needed.
Still gonna have to
Yeah,
have a sign?
yeah,
variance?
yeah.
Okay,
The problem that we have is you can only have one sign, but this sign that's in place is already on its own easement. So adding another sign will hash out, but it shouldn't be a problem.
There's an existing there's an existing pole sign there for off-site advertising.
Yeah.
That is not proposed to go away. That's a separate issue. The developer just wants to put in one sign for his business.
do you know what the life expectancy or the lease term on that existing sign is?
Was it 25 years or something?
I understood it was 25 years, is what I read, but it didn't say when that started. No, don't know that.
Predates my tenure.
Council, any other questions?
So why are we having to make it into, is it multiple lots now?
No.
One. And so
What?
this has never been platted before.
Okay.
And so since it has not, it has to go through preliminary plat first, which is why you're seeing it, and then you'll see it come back for a final plat where they will request the variance again in its final format for approval when they get their infrastructure in, or anything that needs to be installed.
As a refresher course, if you see Lot 1, that's the first time it's been platted. If it's been replatted, you'll see Lot 1A. You'll see an alpha added onto the numerical, and this is going to be initial platting, so we call it Lot 1.
Okay. So the only ordinance that, or only, draw a blank, variance.
Yes.
That we think that we're looking at is just for the sign, and that will come at a later date when they do the
You're
second.
acknowledging it now, and then you'll get another shot at it on final. That's when it'll be officially recorded, and then it will be forever with the plat that you acknowledge that variance.
Do we have access to find out what the,
We can ask.
can we ask that question? Make sure it doesn't expire in 2 years, because we might want to put some terminology on there that at that point, it does come out, or something like that.
Council, any
Pickleball,
other
it's in your
questions?
court now, Ben.
Doug, did you have anything else?
No, I'm waiting to see if you have any questions.
Any other questions, council? Now entertain any action on this item.
Go, Brad.
I make a motion that we accept item 11C as read.
Second that.
A motion and a second on the floor to accept item 11C as read. Is there any discussion? Being no discussion, I'll ask for a vote. All in favor, please signify by raising your right hand. Motion passes unanimously. Item 11D, consider and take any necessary action on request by the East Bell Tap House for hot funding for the second annual Rocktoberfest to be held September 27th through the 28th, 2024. Barbara?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. It's nice to be sitting in my position where I am. We have a request for the second annual Rocktoberfest, and last year they did a really good job. They pulled in about 1,500 people, and this year they're looking at about 2,500 people. And we funded them at $10,000 last year, and we would like to, $10,000 last year, and that's what we would like to fund them at this year, because it seems like when you scale this out with essentially the Fair Park, then $10,000 for them makes sense, because Fair Park will come in higher.
Council, any questions?
I know last year when we discussed this, we wanted to make sure that any printing or any type of business like that stayed local. They were originally, I think, going to do some flyers out of Houston or some other place. We wanted to just make sure, I don't know what all the 10,000 is going for, but if they're doing advertising or having anything printed, I'd like to see those dollars spent here in Rockdale.
Yes, sir. The council has made a decision in the past that any advertising, particularly print media, has to be beyond a 50-mile radius. And so, unfortunately, we don't get to use KRXT or the Reporter. So for their tchotchkes, their T-shirts and whatnot, the bands is what we pay for. But the council made that decision some years back.
But to use it for, like, you know, the shirts you're saying.
Correct.
those
We'll
be
try to
locally
use
made,
local
that's what you
vendors
think,
for
yeah.
those kinds of things.
Before I ask for any action, I do need to make council aware that if this turns into a tie vote, I will have to abstain from voting because East Bell Tap House is owned by family members of mine, so I just want to make everybody aware of that. Council, I'll now entertain any action on this item.
I'll make a motion that we approve the funding of this event at $10,000, which is consistent with last year's funding.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second on the floor to approve the request for hot funds in the amount of $10,000. I just want to reference the discussion that was held by Councilmember Melton, and I think Barbara referenced that as well, that any advertising items that are purchased from local business here, so we ensure our money that is spent stays within our own city. Go ahead, sir.
The follow-up, whose job is it for the follow-up to find out what we did or what they did and didn't do? What their expectations, did they meet them? Whose job is that to follow up with?
Staff, and so what we do is we get the information, then they come back and do a presentation to you. One of the things that Jim has been really helpful with is he has something called Placer, is it Placer AI, and so it gives us all the data of who's come in, where they've come in from. Like, this has actually come in from as far away as Bernie, which is pretty neat, and it tells you the times that they're here, the length of time that they stay here, and particularly with this, when they're having alcohol late at night, that is going to put heads in beds. So that's the kind of event that you want, especially for a 2-day event. So we will make sure that they come back and do that report to you.
I want to put this out there too, that we made a big deal about people coming and asking for money and need to be here. And so I would ask staff, when people come in asking for hot funds, tell them don't ask for them unless you're going to show up at the meeting, because my next answer is going to be no.
Okay.
If you're
Yes,
not
sir.
here to ask for it, my answer is no. Not
We have been
tonight,
strict on that.
but we're going to let it be known.
We have a motion and a second on the floor. At this time, council, all in favor, please signify by raising your right hand. Opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimously. Item 11E, consider and take any necessary action on a request from Encore for a guy wire easement on the northeast corner of City Hall parking lot. Barbara?
You have an exhibit in your packet that shows an easement that they need that is going to be at the very far corner of our parking lot. It's roughly 18 by 32. They've redone US 79, they have needed to redo the electricity, and this is simply to do a guy wire easement.
Council, any questions?
Where is this? Which?
So if you walk out the front doors and then look to the left over by the light posts, it's going to be right there in that grassy area.
Have they explored putting a stronger pole and pole base in? A guy wire is nothing else but
It's
something for
support,
somebody
correct.
to hit.
Yeah.
Something else to weed eat around, another eyesore. There's other ways to do it. Has that question been asked?
No, sir.
Can we ask that question? Is this dire need to pass tonight? Because I would rather see a stronger, more substantial pole put in versus guy wires going all over the place.
So like you're referring to a pole with a cement base built into the ground?
Yeah,
Cleaner look.
it's cleaner.
Yeah.
From a traffic perspective, you don't want something that somebody's going to run into and damage themselves, where the guy wire tends to be more, the vehicle may get damaged, but the human is not going to get damaged. But I would be happy to bring this back to Encore, and then this will return next month.
And something you may add to them is, sitting in our store, I've watched 18-wheelers take out that curve many times, turning this way or the other way, but
Yep.
that's something they have to keep in mind as well.
Okay.
So, they're having a hard time.
I understand it's council's want on this item 11E to send this back for consideration for a different type of pole. Is that correct, council?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Item 11F, consider and take any necessary action for the purchase of the AMI registers for remote reading using the new Harmony base station and repeaters. Gerald?
Yes, sir. This is a purchase order for 274 AMI registers to change out on our current meters. They're $197 a piece. We have a contract that runs till the end of this year for a loyalty agreement with the supplier HydroPro. And we send them back the old registers and we get $50 credit, which makes it $197. The cost for this particular purchase is $53,000, so we brought it to the council, but it is a part of the Post Oak Savannah Groundwater Conservation District approved program, grant.
And if approved, this will take us up to how many meters in the ground? AMI readers?
We're getting right around 1,000.
So we're progressing rapidly.
So the funds would be provided by the grant through Post Oak Savannah Groundwater Conservation District. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Council, any questions?
And this is for how many? And so, I guess let me back up. How was it determined to get this many? Is that the available money through the grant? And that's how
When I put it together, the grant request, I targeted a certain amount of money for each section we're doing. We're doing a SCADA upgrade and a chlorine dosing upgrade at the Texas plant. I put in there 274, seems like a random number, but at the time there was a reason for it. I can't tell you exactly what it was. And then some registers. I'm going to have to cut back on some of this purchasing, and I've got to sit down and decide how I'm going to do it, because when we requested 350, they gave us 315. That answers the question that you had in a previous council meeting, is if we asked for more and they didn't have it, would they give us less? And they did. So that worked out really well. But this is just a single part of the 315,000 plus the 35,000 that we put up as our additional match. We already had 178,000. Our total match is $213,000.
So the recommendation on here is 274 AMI registers, but I understand you're not going to need to purchase that many, is that correct?
No, I am going to purchase that many.
Okay.
I'm not going to be purchasing I had meters and registers units in there. I'm going to have to cut that back some.
Okay.
And when this grant is not available and we have to replace it, this will now become a city-funded thing to replace these readers?
The way to do it is to have a certain amount, maybe 50,000, whatever the number is, when we do our budgeting, to be part of that CIP, and we replace them so many a year until we get them completed.
That was where I was going. So,
In the budget?
do we need to be budgeting for this for next year, for more readers?
I consider this part of the budgeting for this coming year. We did not ask for more.
Speak to, in regards to, I can't speak for Post Oak Savannah, but having just retired from the president of the board of directors for Post Oak Savannah Groundwater Conservation District, they are continuing, that board is continuing to actively promote grants to water supply corporations and municipalities in both Milam and Burleson counties. So I feel very confident that they will continue, as a board, they will continue that. Council, any other questions? I'll entertain a motion on this item.
What number are we on?
Item F.
I make a motion that we approve the purchase of 274 AMI registers.
I'll second it.
I have a motion and a second on the floor. Is there any discussion? Being none, we'll vote. All in favor signify by raising your right hand. Motion passes unanimously. Item 11G, consider and take any necessary action on approval for purchase of firewalls and switches for the Rockdale IT infrastructure from budgeted CIP funds. Tim?
Thank you. There are two pieces of critical IT infrastructure that are nearing or at the end of life in functionality and the protection that they provide. I thank Univista for coming tonight, because they can provide more of the technical answers to the questions that you might have. But I know that there are 6 firewalls that need to be replaced at City Hall, Police Station, Library, Public Works, Wastewater Treatment Plant, and at the airport. Those are $39,267. And the IT switches have been failing for over 4 months. And we are looking at replacing 8 switches, one at City Hall, and they are at City Hall, Police Station, and Library, Public Works, and the Wastewater Treatment Plant. Some of those locations have multiple switches. The cost of that's $30,303. And I could have gone ahead and approved these, but they weren't specifically allocated in the CIP funds. That's where we're planning on funding these for, but I didn't want you all to come back, and if we spent $69,000 from that CIP fund, to say, hey, what happened to the $69,000? I thought we had more funds than this in the CIP fund. So that's why I'm coming to you tonight, to get authorization to proceed and fund those out of the CIP fund.
Council, any questions?
So you said, one of them you said was at the airport? We have switches, firewalls or something? What?
There's a firewall at the airport that actually, and the Univista gentleman can address that. There is a firewall out there that is necessary, and I asked that very question.
It's in the pilot's lounge. Basically, its primary function is to report back fuel, if that's correct. But it takes the usage of that, reports it back, and that's recorded in some software that communicates back to the city's infrastructure.
So it has to do with tracking the fuel usage and sales out there.
Council, any other questions?
Will this $69,000 or $68,000, whatever you said, does that get us back where we need to be?
Pretty close. So
What are you holding out on me?
I'm holding out on a couple of switches that we didn't get really good deals on from the vendor. And the point was that with the larger core switches, police department, city hall, we're replacing all of those. We have some smaller functioning TP links here at city hall. We have a couple of neck gears at the library. Because we didn't get really good cost on it, we just said, they will eventually become end of life. They're not there yet. So let's replace what we can and keep that cost down. Let's get some stability in the network, and then we'll go ahead and revisit. We could budget those smaller items over the next couple of years, hopefully on a 5-year CIP plan, and then we'll push that forward.
And they actually got some prices just recently that are good for another week or two.
They gave us an extra $4,500 off. That ends Friday. That's just for the firewalls. So from the security standpoint, the firewalls themselves will take care of all of the locations. The switches portion is the one that I said, hey, let's kind of look at replacing the problem children that we have, and then we'll really budget out the smaller, lower cost items as we go.
Do we assume any serious risk in not replacing those at the police department and the other ones you referenced? What level of risk are we assuming by not doing that?
Small level of risk, something that we could, if in an emergency, we can pull small funding and replace a switch at a time. No risk to the PD. We're replacing both of their primary 50-port switches. The smaller switches that are left over are, I swear, I think there's gremlins in the ceilings. They're smaller switches that are attached to City Hall and to library.
Okay.
Issue also has just been constant maintenance, where we have to call Univista on a regular basis to address a lot of the switches issues that we've been having.
I've got a public works director that can't barely function because that firewall's down. We tried to bring out a loaner firewall to get him up and running. Will not communicate because of the, part of it is the type, the vendor itself. There's a known glitch with his firewall that actually is the same firewall at the wastewater. The vendor can't fix it, so we just finally said, let's just replace it. So he is my priority as soon as we get the first firewall, and then we'll start replacing the other ones as we go.
Gerald, quick question. If we're doing this work at the wastewater treatment plant or the water facility, those don't qualify under the grant program through Post Oak Savannah?
It's not listed as part of the work that we're trying to do.
Okay. But in the future, it potentially could be, I would think.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Council, any other questions?
Everything that we're doing is also gonna be compatible with, I would assume with PD going to all digital, as quickly as they can. Radios, I assume that all goes through that switch and servers.
This translates over to 800 megahertz.
Different communication platforms. So what are you looking at, Axon?
We have Axon
For the cameras?
for cameras.
And then the radios?
No, I'm sorry, no, cameras and Motorola systems.
Okay.
It's all Motorola WatchGuard.
Okay. So from a communication standpoint, from downloading of videos, the switches are up there. We're looking at Cisco Meraki's. So we're looking at a high quality piece of equipment. There will be, most of the time, WatchGuard themselves bring in their own server and their own switches, bless you, for their own communication. So they touch, but they don't touch, if that makes sense. Bless you.
Are there any known glitches with the new switches that we're getting in? Have we researched?
We've been using the vendor for years. It is an approved vendor on both a CJIS standpoint as well as a Texas State approved.
Have you ever seen any problems with their system?
Not really. But think about it like this. There's multiple vendors out there. At some point in time, something's going to happen. The biggest issue that we have currently is we could not get support from the vendor that we have now. So we really wanted to go with somebody that has the support and will support us when we ask the questions. And even if at that point they said, hey, we're also having some kind of glitch here that we can't resolve, we're working on it, we could at least find a workaround. In this case, the current vendor wouldn't even help us try to configure another vendor switch to work within the environment. Good question.
Excellent. Council, any other questions?
I'll make a motion that we accept line 11G for firewalls and switches as presented.
I'll second that.
I have a motion and a second on the floor. Is there any discussion? None will vote. All in favor, please signify by raising your right hand. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you, sir.
Appreciate you guys.
Item 11H, consider and take any necessary action to ratify the agreement with Enterprise Fleet Management regarding city fleet maintenance and replacement. Tim?
I'll go ahead and address council. So this is something that was presented to council last year in a presentation format, and I think it was widely accepted by council in regard to the direction. There was significant cost savings that we were going to realize from this agreement. This moved forward, but we realized recently that it actually didn't come back for a vote to council formally adopting it. So that's what we're doing tonight. This fleet management program through Enterprise allows us to trade in vehicles, maintain a better fleet on the long term, and capture better pricing both in the long term and from our trade-ins. So, and currently on the budget, excuse me, currently on the agenda, the next item is actually for council to approve the purchase of there were 5 police vehicles that were ordered through this program and 3 public works trucks. And I think the police vehicle that we're looking at is parked outside. I don't know if you saw it as you were coming in. It has not yet been outfitted, but it was delivered this afternoon.
So we do currently have vehicles.
I'm sorry?
We do currently have vehicles through this program.
We are currently getting vehicles through this program.
Correct. 5.
This is just a housekeeping.
Yes.
I make a motion that we approve 11H as read.
I'll second it.
A motion and a second on the floor to approve 11H is read. Is
Let me
there?
add one thing.
Go ahead,
So
sir.
next year, we'll have to do this every year, correct?
Barbara, do you know if this is an annual agreement?
It can be, so we didn't start it that way, it was, I think, started as a 5-year agreement.
So every 5 years it'll come
I
back
don't know if there's,
from the stamp?
I don't know if there's a way to show the savings, kind of like compared to what we had before.
Well-
Just take a certain year and say, well, before we went on, we're spending X amount.
With Enterprise, you'll get a spreadsheet from Enterprise. I use Enterprise in my business. You'll get a spreadsheet from Enterprise that will have every detail, every cost. it'll be more than you want to read, I promise you, and it does a good job of outlining exactly how you spent it and what you saved.
Good question, thank you.
We will get a report for you on an annual basis. I don't know if the agreement will have to come back for renewal every year, but you'll have that report to show where we stand.
Well, I think the citizens would like to see it as well.
And then also, when we actually purchase vehicles, we'll bring that purchase request to you through that lease purchase program.
All right, we have a second, I think.
Yes, we have a motion and a second on the floor. Is there any further discussion? Being none, we'll vote. All in favor signify by raising your right hand. Motion passes unanimously. Item 11I, consider and take any necessary action to ratify the purchase of vehicles for fiscal year 2023, 2024 through Enterprise Fleet Management for the police and public works departments. This seems like a repeat, but it's not.
Only from the standpoint, this is actually for the authorization to purchase the vehicle. So before we actually approve the signing of the contract, in this particular case, we have, I mentioned 5 vehicles through the police department, 3 through public works. The total cost of those vehicles is $526,409. The monthly lease cost for all those vehicles is about a little less than $13,000 a month. And that money is included in the budget that we are considering. So I would just ask for council to approve the purchase of those, and actually the public works vehicles have already been received, and the police vehicles came in this afternoon but still have to be outfitted. So this is more housekeeping.
Council, any questions? I'll entertain action.
I'll make a motion that we approve action item 11I as read.
I'll second.
Have a motion and a second on the floor to approve action item 11I as read. Is there any discussion? Being none, we'll vote. All in favor signify by raising your right hand. Motion passes unanimously. Item 11J, consider and take any necessary action to ratify the purchase of a mini excavator for the Public Works Department. This, too, is another housekeeping item.
Yes, so in the budget last year, there was an approval, there was funding budgeted for the purchase of a mini excavator, and we moved forward with that through a leasing program. The cost of that is approximately $1,195 a month for 60 months. The total cost of that piece of equipment, though, is $53,899, so it does require council approval for that purchase.
Council, any questions? I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion for item 11J for the purchase of the mini excavator for Public Works.
Have a motion on the floor. Is there a second? Have a motion and a second on the floor to approve item 11J as written. Is there any discussion? Being none, we'll vote. All in favor signify by raising your right hand. Motion passes. Councilmember Perry, did you vote? Motion passes unanimously. Item 11K, consider and take any necessary action to ratify the purchase of a hydro excavator for the Public Works Department.
So this is similarly kind of housekeeping. This was approved in the budget last year. The purchase of this piece of equipment, though, is $110,000, and it comes with a lease purchase price of $41,411 for 3 years. This piece of equipment actually was just received, and we are putting together some, because of the value of the piece of equipment, special maintenance requirements to make sure that it is properly maintained and the people using it are properly trained.
This is a trailer-mounted piece of equipment, Councilmember Perry, and I did speak with City Manager Kelty last week when I saw the piece of equipment in town, and he confirmed with me that the company that it was purchased from did come down and do training with specific employees on how to operate this piece of equipment. Is that correct, sir?
Yes. Is it parked outside, by the way?
No, sir, I
Okay.
forgot all about it, but.
That's all right.
I'll get a picture of it to them or something.
All right. That is correct, Mayor. They did come down and they did provide training, and I think there were 6 staff members that received training on that. But we are going to make sure that it gets maintained.
Correct.
So it will have a long life.
Okay. Council, I'll consider any action on item 11K.
Can I ask one question? Tim, did you say the purchase price was 110?
$110,415 is the total cost of the piece of equipment. And that was a purchase through the buy board, so that satisfied the procurement requirements of the city.
And is it, but you said there was three installments of 41? Is there that much interest on this thing? If there is there an option of early payoff? I would like for you to, we can continue on, but I'd like to look into that. I mean.
Possibility of buying it outright.
This is water under
Yeah,
the
because
bridge.
it has 8.5% is the interest rate. So I would explore that option. I'm asking council for approval to purchase it, and then we'll figure out
Please.
the financing if there's a better option.
Okay. I'll make a motion for item 11K for the ratification of the purchase of the hydro excavator for Public Works.
I'll second it.
A motion and a second on the floor. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, we'll vote. All in favor signify by raising your right hand. Motion passes unanimously. That brings us down to item 12. I have 6:56 PM. We will now convene into executive session under sections 551072 of the Texas Government Code to deliberate about purchase, exchange, lease, or value of real property for the purpose of commercial development for the city's 6 acres located at 1166 West Highway 79, Rockdale, Texas. We are now convening into executive session.
Buckle in, boys. We got another 30, 45 minutes to go. Huh?
Okay. Everybody back? It is 7:49 PM. We are reconvened back into open session. Are there any motions at this time?
I will make a motion that we authorize the city manager to continue deliberating on the possible purchase of real property within the city limits.
Under the terms discussed in executive session?
As the terms of discussion in executive session.
I'll second it.
I have a motion and a second on the floor. Is there any discussion? Being none, we'll vote. All in favor signify by raising your right hand. Motion passes unanimously. We are adjourned at 7:50 PM.